This nice summer weather. All those people that complained all winter long, I'm ready for summer to get here. Well, it's here. I'm just like, okay. Is it 9 o'clock? One more minute, okay. Tell me when. All right. Good morning. How's everybody doing today? Glad that you're joining us here for our next book in the series, Not by Bread Alone. For those of you that are seeing us online, let me introduce myself. My name is Billy Loveland. I've been here at Wise Fair Road for nearly 50 years. And for most of those 50 years, I've been involved with children's ministry. I've backed out a little bit. Now I'm still help with them, but now I'm more involved with our worship team and doing some teaching. Let me get this clear. I am not a Bible scholar, okay? I'm a Bible reader. I'm a storyteller, okay? It's kind of hard coming in here to do this series following behind Clay, Derek, and David. It's a little intimidating, a little humbling, but it's an honor to do it. And so we've gotten through all Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, and now Numbers. I don't even like the sound of that. It kind of reminds me of the gigantic accounting books all the business majors had to tote around back in the day in college. If you know, you know. When I was a kid, my family liked to read the Bible. We'd all take turns. And every now and then my parents would get on a kick that we're going to read this Bible cover to cover, Genesis to Revelations. And we were little. I mean, we could read, but we'd all take turns. Here we go. Genesis. All right. Genesis is pretty good. Got some good stuff in it. Exodus. Yeah, Exodus is cool, man. Moses. Yeah. Then you get to Leviticus. Tough read. We'd muddle through that book. And then here it comes. Numbers. If you're not really all in, the first couple of chapters, you could just go to sleep reading it. Okay? But don't be afraid. Put your math trauma behind you, because it's only called Numbers because of the census that was taken at the beginning and the end of the book. Now, I did a little research and found out that the Hebrew word for the book of Numbers is Bimidbar, which means in the desert or in the wilderness. Now, that's the way I want to go into looking at this book. In the desert or in the wilderness. It's basically an account of Moses and the Israelites' 40-year camping trip. Anybody here like to camp out? Probably not for 40 years. You know, me and my family used to like to camp out. It was always real relaxing, and it was cheap. Any of y'all ever go on the old Wise Fair Road camping trips we used to take up at Greer's Ferry? Catfish, you remember? Good times, huh? Yeah, that's right. Well, let's get started on Numbers. Now, I want to put a plug in. Let's see here. That's a lot right there. We're not going to go over all that. But when you're reading any book of the Bible, I'm going to put a plug in for the Bible Project. That's where I do my Bible reading through. They've got an app. It's really good. It's a good resource for reading and studying the Bible, especially if you're a visual learner. That's a lot to look at. We're not going through that, but I do like the way they break up the book of Numbers. It can be divided into 3 sections. Chapters 1 through 10 is God's presence with Israel. I call it packing. Packing up for a trip. Second part is chapters 10 through 19, which is rebellion in the wilderness. That's the camping trip. I mean, if you've been camping with some kids, especially if it's several days, you know what it's like. There's some complaint. Why aren't we doing this? Why is it raining? That's the Israelites. And then chapters 20 through 36, God's mercy on Israel, or heading home, or I like to say their new home, the promised land. All right, chapter 1. The Lord spoke to Moses in the tent of meeting in the desert of Sinai on the first day of the 2nd month of the 2nd year after the Israelites came out of Egypt. He said, "Take a census of the whole Israelite community by their clans and families, listing every man by name, one by one. You and Aaron are to count according to their divisions all the men in Israel who are 20 years old or more and able to serve in the army." Do I have a... Okay, there we go. Moses needed to know how big his army was. The rest of the chapter 1 tells about how many men each tribe had that were 20 years old or older and able to fight in the army. You don't even have to total up. You don't have to do that addition. It's in the Bible already for you. How about that? 603, 550 fighting men. Over 600,000 fighting men. And at the end of the chapter, in verse 49, the Lord said to Moses, "You must not count the tribe of Levi or include them in the census of the other Israelites." Why is that? They weren't doing the fighting. They were working for the Lord. Instead, appoint the Levites to be in charge of the tabernacle of the covenant law, over all its furnishings and everything belonging to it. They are to carry the tabernacle and all its furnishings. They're to take care of it and encamp around it. Whenever the tabernacle is to move, the Levites are to take it down. And whenever the tabernacle is to be set up, the Levites shall do it. Anyone else who approaches it is to be put to death. That's a little tough. The Israelites are to set up their tents by division, each of them in their own camp under their standard. The Levites, however, are to set up their tents around the tabernacle of the covenant law so that my wrath will not fall on the Israelite community. The Levites are to be responsible for the care of the tabernacle of the covenant law. The Israelites did all this just as the Lord commanded Moses. That's chapter 1. Let's roll. Chapter 2. But before we get to chapter 2, I got a little story. You know, when you camp with a large group, you need to have some rules and regulations. I don't want to jump there yet. Rules and regulations to keep everybody safe, to keep up with everybody. You know, back when we were younger, we used to like to go on camping trips with some of the families around here, the Bromleys and the Fortenberrys and the Parkers. And we had a pretty large group. We had about 19 or 20, depending on who showed up. And we would all number off. So if we went somewhere, we'd all count off our numbers so we knew everybody was together. Guess who was number 1? I was number 1. And not because I was number 1. It's because I was the oldest. Okay, I was the old man. And we would number off all the way down to 19 or 20, and we always knew who was there. Numbers make sense. Well, when the Israelites traveled, they didn't have hotels or campers. They had tents. Can you imagine tent camping with over 1 million people? Yeah, it seems like it could be very chaotic. But I want you to remember this. Our God is a God of order. He's a God of order. God does not want us to live in chaos. He wants us to have peace. One thing I appreciate about working with CR is they're all about structure. We meet every Friday, 52 weeks a year, rain or shine. That works good for us old postal guys. Rain, sleet, snow, or hail. Doesn't matter if it's a holiday, we're meeting. And not only are we meeting, the meetings start on time and they end on time. Structure, order, rhythm. We need that in our lives. In chapter 2, verse 1 and 2, the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, the Israelites are to camp around the tent of meeting some distance from it, each under their own standard and holding the banners of their family. Okay, now this is a artist's rendition of how it would be. And see, they're all camped around by tribe. What is this here in the middle? Well, it's the tabernacle with the ark inside, and that's the Levites. I like this one better. It's a little more modern. But on the east side, you have Judah, Issachar, Zebulun. Of course, it has all the numbers of their... On the south side, you have Reuben, Simeon, Gad. On the west side, you have Benjamin, Manasseh, Ephraim. And on the north side, Dan, Asher, Naphtali. Order. And who's in the middle? God is in the middle. We need to keep God in the center of our lives. Now, I mean, I guess if you really want to get technical about it, it almost looks like a cross. You know, but I mean, we don't know exactly how they were set up, but we know which side they were on, and God was in the center. We need him in our lives. He needs to be in the center of our lives, and he's a God of order. All right, that's chapter 2. There we go. Chapter 3, Aaron and his sons are appointed as priests. And, let's see, do we have that slide again? No, let's go back. If you see, let me go over here on this side. Y'all can see me too. On the east side, Moses and the priests camped there at the entrance of the tent of meeting, okay? On the south side is the clan of the Kohathites. On the west side, clan of the Gershonites. North side, clan of the Maronites. God was a God of order. They all had their own jobs, and we're going to go over that in just a minute. Chapter 3, verses 11 through 13. The Lord also said to Moses, I have taken the Levites from among the Israelites in place of the first male offspring of every Israelite woman. The Levites are mine, for all the firstborn are mine. When I struck down all the firstborn in Egypt, I set apart for myself every firstborn in Israel, whether human or animal. They are to be mine. I am the Lord. This is an interesting thing here. God said the Levites are going to take the place of the firstborn. You know, after the 10th plague, when all the firstborn of Egypt died, he said, the firstborn are going to be mine. They got to be dedicated to the Lord. Well, now he's saying the Levites are going to take their place. It's a replacement. It's a redemption. Does that sound like anything you've heard before? Who's redeemed us? That's always the right answer. Jesus. This is a little bit of foreshadowing of Jesus taking our place. Okay? Chapter 4. Do I have something here? Yeah. The Levites clan. They took a census of the Levites. They had a 20-year mandatory retirement. They worked from 30 to 50. Okay? Nice, isn't it? Aaron and his sons, they had all the priestly duties. They took care of all the things in the tabernacle. They did all the sacrificing. The Kohathites, let's see. Oh, well. Do what now? Okay, the Kohathites' job was, we carry all the holy things. They couldn't go in and get them. Aaron and his sons would cover everything up. And when they moved, the Kohathites would carry the Ark of the Covenant, you know, the altar of incense, all those things, the lampstand. The Gershonites would carry all the curtains and the tent and all that. And the Merarites would carry the frames, the crossbar posts, and bases. So they all had their jobs. Chapter 5, I got to roll on here. Chapter 5 is about rules for purity in camp. We've got God in the center. We on chapter 5 there? There we go. God's in the center. We need to stay pure. If God's in the center, we need to stay pure. Chapter 6. It's an interesting chapter, it's about Nazirite vows. Now, a Nazirite was somebody that would make a special vow or dedication to the Lord. And when they did, they had an outward expression of that. And what they would do is they'd let their hair grow out. So they had some rules. They don't cut their hair. They don't drink wine or fermented drinks or eat like grapes or raisins or anything from the grapevine. And they stayed away from dead bodies. Now, we're not going to get real deep into Nazirites, but y'all know any Nazirites from the Bible later on? Who? Samson. Samson was one. I don't think he took it real seriously. I had Samuel and John the Baptist. So anyway, that's the Nazirite vows. Let's go on. Chapter 7. They talk about all the gifts. We on there? Yeah, there we go. Did I jump ahead? Yeah. Oh, sorry. Okay. Chapter 7 is all the gifts and dedication of the tabernacle. Each tribe came in. There's more numbers. They brought a lot of gold, a lot of silver, grain, incense, and animals for sacrifice. Each tribe they had a lot of stuff that they dedicated to the tabernacle. Then in chapter 8, they light the lampstand, and they purify the Levites. Chapter 9, Passover is celebrated. First Passover since they left Egypt. Okay? And then the cloud comes over the tabernacle. In verse 15 of chapter 9, on the day the tabernacle, the tent of the covenant law was set up, the cloud covered it. From evening till morning, the cloud above the tabernacle looked like fire. This is how it continued to be. The cloud covered it, and at night it looked like fire. Whenever the cloud lifted from above the tent, the Israelites set out. Wherever the cloud settled, the Israelites encamped. At the Lord's command, the Israelites set out, and at his command they encamped. As long as the cloud stayed over the tabernacle, they remained in camp. I'm sure that was very impressive. I mean, you'd think, after all these people have seen, from Egypt till now, they'd be like, man, we're serving a good God. I mean, he's powerful. Derek can tell you different. Okay, in the beginning of chapter 10, they make 2 silver trumpets. Well, with 1 million people, and I cannot see this thing from where I'm sitting. Okay, we're good. They made 2 silver trumpets because they need a method of communication. I mean, they don't have cell phones. They don't have walkie-talkies, nothing. So they have these trumpets that make a blast for whatever they're going to do, whether they're going to set out or whatever. Say, hey, I hear the trumpet. Oh, 2 blasts. Okay, we got to do this. I don't know what all they were. You can study that yourself. All right. Now we're on our way. We've packed. We're heading out. Israel Sinai. There we go. And remember, God is a God of order. They didn't just go, let's go, and they all just go. Judah goes first, followed by Issachar, followed by Zebulun. Then the Gershonites and the Merarites, they take down the tabernacle. They're carrying it behind those first 3 tribes. Then you're followed by Reuben, Simeon, Gad. Guess what comes next? All the articles in the tabernacle carried by the Kohathites. And then Ephraim, Manasseh, Benjamin, Dan, Asher, Naphtali. That's how they would get up. That's how they'd go. God's a God of order. And what I think is kind of cool, I want to hit this one. Do I have it on there? Yeah. Whenever the ark set out, this is verse 35 and 36 of chapter 10, Moses said, rise up, Lord. May your enemies be scattered. May your foes flee before you. And whenever it came to rest, he said, return, Lord, to the countless thousands of Israel. I mean, they may be countless now. They counted them earlier, but that's a pretty cool little blessing. All right. Now we're out in the wilderness. We're on our camping trip. We're heading straight to the promised land, but we have a few little problems along the way. Starting with chapter 11. Verse 1 and 2. Now the people complained about their hardships in the hearing of the Lord, and when he heard them, his anger was aroused. Then fire from the Lord burned among them and consumed some of the outskirts of the camp. When the people cried out to Moses, he prayed to the Lord, and the fire died down. This is a recurring theme in the whole book of Numbers. The people rebel, they complain, they sin, and what does Moses do? He intercedes for them. Lord, please, don't do it. Don't destroy them all. Who intercedes for us? Are we on that right one? Okay. Yeah, who intercedes for us? Jesus. We got Jesus in Numbers again. Now, when you're on a camping trip, what happens when you have nothing to do? You get bored. You start complaining. There's nothing to do. And you get hungry. Verse 4 and 6, the rabble with them, and this is right after, the fire consumed some of them. The rabble with them began to crave other food. And again, the Israelites started wailing and said, if only we had meat to eat. We remember the fish we ate at Egypt at no cost. Also the cucumbers, melons, leeks, onions, and garlic. But now we have lost our appetite. We see nothing but this manna. I mean, come on, people. Verse 10, Moses heard the people of every family wailing at the entrance to their tents. The Lord became exceedingly angry, and Moses was troubled. He asked the Lord, why have you brought this trouble on your servant? What have I done to displease you that you put the burden of all these people on me? Did I conceive all these people? Did I give them birth? Why do you tell me to carry them in my arms as a nurse carries an infant to the land you promised on oath to their ancestors? Where can I get meat for all these people? They keep wailing to me, give us meat to eat. I cannot carry all these people myself. The burden is too heavy for me, God. If this is how you're going to treat me, please go ahead and kill me. If I found favor in your eyes, and do not let me face my own ruin. Moses is kind of at the end of his rope here. But he's not. Verse 18, tell the people, consecrate yourselves in preparation for tomorrow when you will eat meat. The Lord heard you when you wailed, if only we had meat to eat. We were better off in Egypt. Now the Lord will give you meat, and you will eat it. You will not eat it for just one day, or 2 days, or 5, 10, or 20. A lot of numbers there. But for a whole month, until it comes out of your nostrils and you loathe it. Because you have rejected the Lord who is among you and have wailed before him, saying, why did we ever leave Egypt? But Moses said, here I am among 600,000 men on foot, and you say I will give them meat to eat for a month. Would they have enough if flocks and herds were slaughtered for them? Would they have enough if all the fish in the sea were caught for them? The Lord answered Moses, is the Lord's arm too short? Now you will see whether or not I say will come true for you. Verse 31, now a wind went out from the Lord and drove quail in from the sea. It scattered them up to 2 cubits deep all around the camp, as far as a day's walk in every direction. All that day and night and all the next day the people went out and gathered quail. No one gathered less than 10 homers. Then they spread them all around the camp, but while the meat was still between their teeth and before it could be consumed, the anger of the Lord burned against the people, and he struck them with a severe plague. They wanted meat, and they got more than they wanted. Be careful what you ask for. Now here's some numbers. What's a cubit? Anybody know what a cubit is? I mean, they say it was like from your elbow to the end of your, about 18 inches. The quail were 2 cubits deep. That's 3 feet. A day's walk in every direction. I can walk a couple of miles in a day. Think about how many quail that is. And it said they all gathered no less than 10 homers. I'm like, what is a homer? Well, I looked it up. It's either 10 baths or 10 ephahs. So what is that? I don't know. It's a lot. They had a lot of quail. God's arm's not too short, by the way. All right, next chapter, chapter 12. Okay, got some family squabbles. Aaron and Miriam question Moses' authority, and Miriam gets leprosy. And guess who goes to God for? Moses. He intercedes, and after 7 days she's clean, can come back in the camp. Chapter 13. We on there? Okay, good. We're near the promised land. So Moses chooses from each tribe to spy out the promised land. He asks them to go for 40 days and compile some data about the land. We need some numbers. What is the land like? Is it fertile? What kind of crops grow there? Are the cities weak or fortified? So the spies went in and brought back some produce to the land. They cut one cluster of grapes that was so big that it took 2 men hold it on a pole over their shoulders. So they brought all this back after 40 days. Verse 27, they gave Moses this account. We went into the land to which you sent us, and it does flow with milk and honey. Here is its fruit. But, not a good word. The people who live there are powerful, and the cities are fortified and very large. We even saw descendants of Anak there. The Amalekites live in the Negev. The Hittites, Jebusites, and Amorites live in the hill country, and the Canaanites live near the sea along the Jordan. Then Caleb silenced the people before Moses and said, we should go up and take possession of the land, for we can certainly do it. But the men who had gone up with him said, we can't attack these people. They are stronger than we are. And they spread among the Israelites a bad report about the land they had explored. They said, the land we explored, devour those living in it. All the people we saw there are of great size. We saw the Nephilim there. We seem like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we look the same to them. Well, in the next chapter, do I have 14 on there? Yeah. Okay. There's a bad report. The bad report starts a rebellion. I'm going to read out of my Bible here. Chapter 14, verse 1 through 4. That night, all the members of the community raised their voices and wept aloud. All the Israelites grumbled against Moses and Aaron, and the whole assembly said to them, if only we had died in Egypt or in this wilderness. Why is the Lord bringing us to this land only to let us fall by the sword? Our wives and children will be taken as plunder. Wouldn't it be better for us to go back to Egypt? And they said to each other, we should choose a leader and go back to Egypt. You were in slavery. Oh, my goodness. But, we get that way sometimes. Chapter 14, verses 10. Well, in the meantime, Joshua and Caleb and Moses were like, oh, come on, we can take these guys. We can do this. I'm not going to read all that. I said, well, God's with us. We can take them. But they said, the whole assembly talked about stoning them. Then the glory of the Lord appeared at the tent of meeting to all the Israelites. The Lord said to Moses, how long will these people treat me with contempt? How long will they refuse to believe in me in spite of all the signs I have performed among them? I will strike them down with a plague and destroy them, but I will make you into a nation greater and stronger than they. Then Moses intercedes again. He said, man, what's Egypt going to think? What's all these other countries around here going to think if you destroy your own people? Come on, God. Verse 19. In accordance with your great love, forgive the sin of these people just as you have pardoned them from the time they left Egypt until now. The Lord replied, I have forgiven them as you asked. Nevertheless, as surely as I live and as surely as the glory of the Lord fills the whole earth, not one of those who saw my glory and the signs I performed in Egypt and in the wilderness, not one of them will ever see the land I promised to their ancestors. It's pretty tough. Verse 34. For 40 years, 1 year for each of the 40 days you explored the land, you will suffer for your sins and know what it is like to have me against you. That's tough. I, the Lord, have spoken, and I will surely do these things to this whole wicked community which has banded together against me. They will meet their end in this wilderness, and they will die. So they're right there. They're right there at the promised land. If they just follow what Joshua and Caleb said, they'd have gone right in. But no. Now they're going to go wander around on their 40-year camping trip. And at the next verse, so the men Moses had sent to explore the land who returned and made the whole community grumble against him by spreading a bad report. These men who were responsible were struck down and died of a plague before the Lord. Not good. All right, chapter 15. Okay. Talks about the offerings that you give when you get to the promised land. Some more rules. And then there's something interesting at the end about tassels on your clothes. Chapter 15, verse 37 through 41. The Lord said to Moses, speak to the Israelites and say to them, throughout the generations to come, you are to make tassels on the corners of your garments with a blue cord on each tassel. You will have these tassels to look at so that you will remember all the commands of the Lord, that you may obey them and not prostitute yourselves by chasing after the lusts of your own hearts and eyes. Then you will remember to obey all my commands and will be consecrated to your God. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt to be your God. I am the Lord your God. I don't want tassels hanging off all my clothes, okay? But we do need to keep reminders around to remind us of God's word. Do any of y'all have verses posted around on your refrigerator or anything? Not a bad idea. Keep some verses posted around. Keep some sayings around. You know, it will keep your heart and mind in the right place. Chapter 16. We got another rebellion. Little opposition. Oh, thanks. We got three guys. Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. And they got 250 respected leaders with them. And they're coming up to Moses and say, hey, look, we don't think you should be in charge. Well, doesn't go well for them. In verse 20, the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, separate yourselves from this assembly so I can put an end to them at once. But Moses and Aaron fell face down and cried out, oh God that gives breath to all living things, will you be angry with the entire assembly with only one man's sins? The Lord said to him, he intercedes again. The Lord said to Moses, say to the assembly, move away from the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. And in verse 31, as soon as he finished saying all this, the ground under them split apart, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them and their households, their wives and children. It's tough. Together with all their possessions, they went down alive into the realm of the dead with everything they owned. As the earth closed around them, and they perished and were gone from the community. At their cries, the Israelites around them fled, shouting, the earth is going to swallow us too. But then fire came from the Lord and consumed the 250 other men who were rebelling. A couple things to take from this chapter. Don't oppose God's appointed leaders. You know, that happens in a lot of churches, unfortunately. Don't oppose them. I mean, you can go talk to them, but don't oppose them. And this is one for the fathers. All you fathers out there, be careful because you can lead your family astray. These guys' whole families paid for what they were doing. That's not good. So fathers, keep that in mind. It's not always just about you. You're leading your family. All right, read the rest of the chapter when you get a chance to see what happened to the people that grumbled after all that happened. It's not good. I'm not going to get into that, but more of them died. Okay? That's the end of chapter 16. Chapter 17. All right. God says, I'm going to put an end to all this grumbling about who's in charge. So he says, look, everybody, one guy from each tribe, bring one of your staffs, and we're going to put it in the tabernacle by the altar. And whichever one sprouts, that's the one that I'll show you has been chosen. So they put them in there, and Aaron's rod not only sprouted, it budded and had almonds on it. That's pretty good. I wish I could grow like that, right, Mike? That'd be nice. Yeah. Me and Mike are gardening buddies. He's way better than me, too, by the way. All right. Chapter 18, we talk about priestly duties and offerings for priests and Levites. Chapter 19, the water of cleansing. Interesting reading, but we're not going to get into that right now. Now we're into the third part. Headed home to the promised land. Okay? You think we're ready to go, right? Chapter 20, the people start complaining because there's no water. Come on, Moses, what are we doing? We should go back to Egypt. Verse 9. Well, God told Moses, before we get to verse 9, he said, look, go speak to the rock and water will come from it. Moses has probably just had all he can deal with these people. So in verse 9 it says, Moses took the staff from the Lord's presence, just as he commanded him. He and Aaron gathered the assembly together in front of the rock, and Moses said to them, Listen, you rebels, must we bring you water out of this rock? And Moses raised his arm and struck the rock twice with his staff. Water gushed out, and the community and their livestock drank. But, the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, Because you did not trust me enough to honor me as holy in the sight of the Israelites, you will not bring this community into the land I gave them. Man, one little mistake. One little mistake. I think Moses was getting tired of all the complaining, and he put himself in place of God. And it cost him. At the end of the chapter, Aaron dies on Mount Hor, and Aaron's son Eleazar becomes the new high priest. Chapter 21, you following me? Thank you. The Israelites achieve a great victory over the king of Arad. All right, verse 4. They traveled from Mount Hor along the, how am I doing time? All right, we're good. Along the Red Sea to go around Edom, because they wouldn't let them go through. But the people grew impatient on the way. They spoke against God and against Moses and said, Why have you brought us up out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? Again, there's no bread, there's no water, and we detest this miserable food. 10 homers wasn't enough. Then the Lord sent venomous snakes among them. They bit the people, and many Israelites died. The people came to Moses and said, We sinned again when we spoke against the Lord and against you. Pray that the Lord will take the snakes away from us. So Moses prayed for the people. Again, the Lord said to Moses, Make a snake and put it up on a pole. Anyone who is bitten can look on it and live. So Moses made a bronze snake and put it up on a pole. Then when everyone was bitten by a snake, they looked up at the bronze snake and they lived. Do you know where the bronze snake is mentioned anywhere else in the Bible? 2 Kings is one, and I'll cover that in August. I got 2 Kings in August. We'll talk about it again. But there's one other place in John 3 in the New Testament. John 3, verse 12. This is Jesus speaking to Nicodemus. I have spoken to you of earthly things, and you do not believe. How then will you believe it if I speak of heavenly things? No one has ever gone into heaven except the one who came from heaven, the Son of Man. Just as Moses lifted up the snake in the wilderness, so the Son of Man must be lifted up, that everyone who believes may have eternal life in him. Foreshadowing of Jesus. Read this verse with me. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. The bronze snake, right before that. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him. Some more foreshadowing. Jesus said, hey, I was like the bronze snake. Believe in me and you'll live. All right, then the rest of the chapter, they have a couple major victories where they defeat the Amorites and the kings Sihon and Og, which that one's mentioned again later. You know, a lot of places. Pretty big victories. All right, how are we doing on time? Doing pretty good. Okay. Because we're to a part that's kind of unusual. We got the unlikely messenger in chapter 22. You there? His name was Balaam. We've just had these two big victories, and there's this guy named Balak who's a king of Moab, and he sees what's going on. He hears, and he's like, "Oh my, we're in trouble. These Israelites, they're pretty strong. They mean business." And so, in chapter 22, let's see. Let me get it. I'm gonna read this out of my Bible here. Verses 1 through 3. The Israelites traveled to the plains of Moab and camped along the Jordan across from Jericho. So they're there. We're there. Now Balak saw all that Israel had done to the Amorites, and Moab was terrified because there were so many people. Indeed, Moab was filled with dread because of the Israelites. So what does Balak do? Man, I got to do something. He knows this guy named Balaam. Weird little guy, lives up in the mountains. He's kind of like a soothsayer. He prophesies, puts curses on people. He sends them a message. Verse 5. A people has come out of Egypt. They cover the face of the land and have settled next to me. Now come and put a curse on these people because they are too powerful for me. Perhaps then I will be able to defeat them and drive them out of the land. For I know that whoever you bless is blessed, and whoever you curse is cursed. So Balaam goes and talks to God, and God says, don't go. Well, he sends some more messengers, and finally God says, you go ahead and go, but you only say what I tell you to say. So, in verse 21, Balaam got up in the morning, saddled his donkey, and went with the Moabite officials. But God was very angry when he went. See, I think Balaam was like, hey, I'm fixing to get a big payday right here. They're going to pay me a lot of money to put a curse on these people. He was very angry, and the angel of the Lord stood in the road to oppose him. Balaam was riding on his donkey, and his two servants were with him. When the donkey saw the angel of the Lord standing in the road with a drawn sword in his hand, it turned off the road into a field. Balaam beat it to get back on the road. I guess Balaam couldn't see this angel, but the donkey could. Then the angel of the Lord stood in a narrow path through the vineyards with walls on both sides. When the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, it pressed close to the wall, crushing Balaam's foot against it. So he beat the donkey again. Then the angel of the Lord moved on ahead and stood in a narrow place where there was no room to turn, either to the right or to the left. When the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, it lay down under Balaam, and he was angry and beat it with his staff. Then the Lord opened the donkey's mouth, and it said to Balaam, what have I done to you to make you beat me these 3 times? I'm thinking of Donkey on Shrek, you know. I'm a donkey. Got another word for it that they used to say back when I was a kid, but we're not going there. All right. Balaam answered the donkey. So he's like, well, the donkey's talking to me. I might as well answer him back. You have made a fool of me. If only I had a sword in my hand, I would kill you right now. Then the donkey said to Balaam, am I not your own donkey, which you have always ridden, and to this day? Have I been in the habit of doing this to you? No. Then the Lord opened Balaam's eyes, and he saw the angel of the Lord standing in the road with his sword drawn. So he bowed low and fell face down. The angel of the Lord asked him, why have you beaten your donkey these 3 times? I've come here to oppose you because your path is a reckless one before me. The donkey saw me and turned away from me these 3 times. If it had not turned away, I would certainly have killed you by now, but I would have spared him. Balaam said to the angel of the Lord, I have sinned. I did not realize you were standing in the road to oppose me. Now, if you are displeased, I will go back. The angel of the Lord said to Balaam, go with the men, but speak only what I tell you. So Balaam went with Balak's officials. Well, then he goes over to meet Balak. He says, okay, you're going to curse him for me, right? Well, I can only tell you what the Lord tells me to say. That's all I can say. So they make these sacrifices. They go up on this high place. They can see the Israelites down there. And he opens his mouth, and out come the words of the Lord, blessing the people of Israel. Well, Balak doesn't like that. He said, whoa. You're supposed to curse them, not bless them. Well, let's go try another place. Maybe it'll work better. So they go do it again. Same thing happens. Opens his mouth, blesses Israel. Now Balak's really mad. He goes, let's go try this one more time. So they go build a little altar. They make some sacrifices. Balaam opens his mouth, blesses Israel once again. Now Balak doesn't know what to think. Well, then Balaam starts prophesying. He blesses them 3 times. He starts doing these prophecies. And the one I want to get to is the one in chapter 24, verse 15, his 4th prophecy. Then he spoke his message, the prophecy of Balaam, son of Beor, the prophecy of one whose eyes see clearly, the prophecy of one who hears the words of God, who has knowledge from the Most High, who sees a vision from the Almighty, who falls prostrate and whose eyes are open. I see him, but not now. I behold him, but not near. A star will come out of Jacob. Let me get my page turned. A scepter will rise out of Israel. He will crush the foreheads of Moab, the skulls of all the people of Sheth. Edom will be conquered. Seir, his enemy, will be conquered, but Israel will grow strong. A ruler will come out of Jacob and destroy the survivors of the city. Now, who is he talking about? Some people say David. But some people think he was talking about always the correct answer. I'm going to go with Jesus. There's another foreshadowing of Jesus. A prophecy from this little guy And the Israelites don't even know this is happening. They're down there on the ground worrying about water and manna and quail and who's in charge. And far from them, here's this little guy that God is using to bless them even after all the rebellion, all their sin, all their grumbling and complaining. God's still blessing them. And then he's even talking about who's going to come in the future to redeem them. God blesses us even when we're rebelling and we aren't aware. All right, how are we doing? I want to hit this next one real quick. Chapter 25, the Moabite seduction. They're sitting there waiting to go into the promised land. The Moabites are around there, and they're bored, of course. And it says, while Israel was staying in Shittim, the men began to indulge in sexual immorality with Moabite women, who invited them to sacrifice to their gods Baal. People ate. And the Lord said to Moses, take all the leaders of these people, kill them and expose them in broad daylight, so that my fierce anger will turn away from them. So Moses said, you got to put to death all these people who are worshiping Baal. And right as they're talking, here comes, and they're down weeping, and Lord, we're sorry. Here comes a guy right through the middle of them with a Midianite woman and takes him to his tent. Right in front of everybody. Well, Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the priest, saw him, took a spear, and drove it through both of them. And the Lord's anger subsided. All right, we're fixing to wrap it up. I don't have much time left. They're waiting to go into the promised land now. And so the next few chapters, they have a second census in chapter 26. And then we talk about some festivals, some vows. Do we have that? Okay, a lot of things. Chapter 32 talks about the Transjordan tribes, Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh, who wanted to stay on the other side of the Jordan. We talked about that in our sermon with Joshua. They had to agree to go ahead and go in and fight the wars, and then they could come back and settle. And then chapter 33 is a good read. It talks about all the places they went on their 40-year camping trip. You got to think, man, they didn't just like keep moving. There was times they'd stop, maybe they sit somewhere for a year or two. Doesn't really say, but it's a lot of places. They did all that complaining just made for a longer camping trip, which isn't always good. All right, and then we talk about boundaries, cities for Levites, and all that. But I want to have about 5 key things to remember before we wrap it up. You got them? Our God is a God of order. Don't rebel against God. You might get more than what you ask for. Moses intercedes for Israel like Jesus intercedes for us. And there's a lot of foreshadowing of Jesus throughout the book of Numbers. And we have a merciful God who continually blesses us even though we may not know it. And I'm going to end today with something I skipped over earlier. Chapter 6, it's the priestly blessing. Numbers 6, 24 to 26. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. Let's pray. Dear Lord, just thank you for this time we've had together to just do an overview of the book of Numbers. We just thank you so much for how you just have your plan for us all through the Bible. Just thank you for all the people here today and online. Help us have a great day. In Jesus' name, amen.